Now, Nikki Henderson also works to promote social justice. In her case, it's what she calls food justice, the belief that healthy food is a human right. She's the executive director of People's Grocery in West Oakland, California, a community-based organization that works to improve the health and economy of West Oakland by providing fresh, good food to people of all income levels. People tend not to make the connection between food and health care, Nikki says. But if we can show on a local level how integrated they are, maybe we can change the national conversation and the food system. Before People's Grocery, Nikki worked closely with Van Jones at Green for All, fighting for a green economy strong enough to lift people out of poverty. She also worked for Slow Food USA in Brooklyn, New York City, where President Josh Viertel came to regard her as an extraordinary leader with a vision for food and urban farming and how it can be. At 25 years old, Nikki is the recipient of one of Elle Magazine's Gold Awards, 5 at 25. Please welcome to Connecting for Change, Nikki Henderson.
Thank you. Good morning. You know, I think I'm mic'd in. I am. Yay, how about that? All right, everyone close your eyes. Actually, you know what? You've been sitting and listening. Get up. Stand up, stand up. Hands up. Wiggle those fingers. Lean over this way. Stretch it out, stretch it out, stretch it out. Lean over that way. Stretch it out, stretch it out. Lean forward a little bit. Don't hit the person in front of you. Stretch it out, stretch the back. Now wind your neck around and your shoulders just a little bit. Push it out, push it out. All right, now sit down. And now we're ready to have fun together. I have a background in theater, and so I know when you're sitting down for long periods of time and listening to someone talk to you, you get a little tired, you get a little restless, you start leaning back. So I just try to take care of the human beings. And speaking of the human beings, I've been here the past couple of days, just kind of mingling, eating with you, talking with you. I like to get here a couple of days early just so I can kind of feel out who's here and see your hearts a little bit before we get into a conversation. And I just want to say that I am darn impressed with who is at this conference. You've inspired me, and I want you to know that I see you. Van Jones spoke on Friday, and one of the things he talked about was that change is hard, right? There's hope. How many of you were here for that? Okay, good. So you remember what he was saying about losing the 15 pounds, right? There's hope, and then there's getting your behind to the gym, and that's change, right? But sometimes what you need to go from hope to change is inspiration, right? You need to do whatever Jedi mind trick you can to get yourself out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to that 7 a.m. yoga class, right? What do you tell yourself in those moments? Even better, what happens if you've been running a campaign for 6 months and you lose, right? What motivates you to get back out there and run another campaign? It's gatherings like this. Sometimes we need to recharge our batteries. Sometimes we need to remember who's with us. Sometimes we need to see our community, and not just 10 of our community. Dinner parties help, they help. But when 300 of you or 500 of you or 1,000 of you are together, when we're all together, that's inspiration. That's what can make hope into change. And as Annie Leonard said yesterday, we also need social interaction, right? It's the thing that actually makes our movements work. It's the things that actually weave us together and bond us together. And this is the space where we can weave together. I just had to reflect that back to you because I was just so moved by what I saw these past couple of days, and I want to thank you. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to have fun storytelling time, and I'm going to tell you how I became an environmentalist, because that will help when we start talking about food and access and justice and sustainability. You can see how I got here. Rewind. I'm 5 years old. That question comes up. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an environmentalist. All my friends kind of frowned and said, huh? The heck is that? Now, why did I know what being an environmentalist was? Maybe I wasn't 5, maybe I was more like 8. But how did I know what that was? Because I was a Planeteer. How many of you were Planeteers? What generation gaps am I creating right now by bringing up Captain Planet? You know what I'm talking about. Captain Planet, he's our hero, gonna take pollution down to 0. You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, all right, I was just checking. So I was a Planeteer, and for those of you that don't know, Captain Planet was an environmental superhero with sky. He had like green hair for the earth, and he was blue for the sky, and he had like on earth pants or something like that. He was fresh, right? And there was this squad of children who were all different colors of the rainbow, right? There was a black one, there was an Asian one, there was a white one, there was a Latino one, and they had these rings, right? And they would drive around in their little hovercraft fighting environmental crimes. And then when they found one that was too big to handle, right? If only we had had this for the climate bill, if all of us together could not make a climate bill, we could just put our frickin' rings together, right? And then Captain friggin' Planet would pop up, and he was all of our powers combined, and he would just go take care of it for us. Right? That is the personification of all of our powers combined, was Captain Planet. And I saw that, and I said, that's me. That's being an environmentalist. That's me. That's what I want to do. I'm going to save Mother Earth. It was Captain Planet, and it was Michael Jackson, right? Because he came out with Earth Song. I don't know how much y'all know about that, but it was the really scary music video with like the elephants that were dying and coming back to life and the trees that were popping out. And he said between the trees, you know, what about everything? It's terrifying. But it inspired me to be an environmentalist. Now, what happened? I tell my teachers I want to be an environmentalist, and they all encouraged me. Then I tell my friends I want to be an environmentalist. Then I start telling older teenagers that I want to be an environmentalist, and I get this very strange reaction. They said, well, you know there are no black environmentalists, right? And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, the white folks can worry about the environment. We got other things. Don't you have 7 older foster brothers? Yeah. So? Well, isn't it more important to make sure that they have shoes and that they make sure that they have a home? But what if we don't have air? We can't have shoes. I was getting this when I was 10. And I was re-indoctrinated, right? During my teenage years, to think that black people can't be environmentalists. And it wasn't by my authority figures, it was from my peers. And then I get to college. And somewhere along the way, I had forgotten that I wanted to be an environmentalist. And then I meet a very good friend of mine, Michael Cox, who I will always credit with starting me on this path again. And he invited me to a class called Education for Sustainable Living. And from that moment on, I was an environmentalist again. Only I didn't call myself that. I called myself being into sustainability. And it was amazing, right? That was when all of the metaphysics about being into the environment came up for me. The spirit in the trees, I can talk to the rocks. We go out into the forest and do drum circles and dance, and my hair was all different colors. It was great. It was great. And then I would go back to trying to go to the African Student Union meetings, and they would be like, what are you doing? Why are you not flushing your toilet and dancing around in the forest? And I would say, I'm trying to save the earth, man. So this divide between fighting for my community and fighting for my planet followed me from the time that I've been a small child. And I was still having trouble reconciling these two things, right? These two different worlds. And then I met Van Jones. He came to UCLA and started his speech by saying, "This is the presentation Al Gore would have done if he was black." And I said, "Oh, I need to work for this man." So I attached myself promptly to his left leg and did not let go until he agreed to hire me. And that was the beginning of a beautiful road that has gotten me here now, through climate change, through green jobs, to green-collar jobs, and now to food, right? And where does food fit into all of this for me? Food fits in because the other thing that I wanted to do, besides being an environmentalist when I was a child, was be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to heal people's bodies, right? I wanted to heal their health. And what I realized is that people who live in inner city communities don't have access to health. I don't know how many of you saw Antui's presentation yesterday, but one of the things he was bringing up was how the structural systems in this country have prevented some people from getting certain privileges. Well, that structural thing has also prevented certain people from having access to health, right? Whole new thing coming up called social determinants of health. If you live in certain areas where there isn't good housing, there's also not good education. There's also not very many grocery stores. There's also not very good air. There's also not very many places to walk outside and feel safe. If all of those things converge at the same time, you got a serious health problem. And one of the things that I saw when I was a child was lots of my family members with diabetes, with high blood pressure, right? All different kind of health-related diseases. And one of the things that I learned when I was a child is that the way that you eat and the things that you put into your body, they can really, really, really change the way that you interact with the rest of your environment. They can make you feel bad or they can make you feel good. And if you don't have access to the kind of food that helps you feel good, what are you supposed to do? You go shop at the liquor store. It's food. It's the only food that you have available to you. So I saw this as a big problem. And I decided I wanted everyone to have access to really healthy food, and that was the best way that I could be an environmentalist. And the reason why, the biggest reason why, and this is what I want to leave you with, if you get nothing else, this is what I want you to get. All of our movements are the same. We're fighting for the same thing. Happy, healthy, thriving people and planet at the end of the day, right? Exactly. And all of our movements cannot work without the strength of those bonds, the bonds that weave us together. And what is one of the best ways to keep a bond together between human beings? Feed the people. If you prepare a big bowl of chili and you invite 10 people to your house, you will sit and talk about things you never expected to talk about. Breaking bread together, sharing food, this is the thing that can weave our movements together. I'm doing a workshop later at 1:30, and that's when I'll talk a little more about People's Grocery and what it is that I actually do. But primarily, what we do is improve the health and economy of West Oakland. We're building a local food system, and we're trying to show that the social determinants of health the social determinants of health that determine bad health can be prevented with healthy foods. We could do that in a stark white office, on our computers, doing community surveys, and be having no fun. I've seen it happen. I've walked into offices that are fighting for change, and they're all unhappy. And that is just a travesty, because ain't nothing gonna work if the people are unhappy. And I get the honor of working in a field where you can more closely see the connection between gathering people with food and the cause that we're fighting for. But what I'm here to say is that even though it's a closer and more natural connection for me, it needs to be a closer and more natural connection for all of y'all. Whatever you do, bring people together with food. Use it as a tool. Use it as a tool for social change. What if we showed up at Congress with some good apple crisp on a day when they were taking a vote on something that we care about? Have you tried the apple crisp, Senator? Don't you want to vote on my bill? What if we showed up at police stations, the police that are actually harassing our young brothers and sisters on the street, and said, would you like to have dinner with us? Can we bring you some mac and cheese so we can sit down and actually communicate with you and tell you who we are? What if we all did this together? We would be unstoppable. So that's my message to you. Use food as a tool for social change. Use it every day. And make darn sure that you feed yourselves. Thank you very much.